Hello, mate.
Hey mate, what's happening?
Not too much. I'm just sitting here enjoying your pretty rude kit at the moment, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I actually I thought you said this was the party shirt episode, so I just wore the brightest shirt I have.
Oh, see, I thought you said it was
it is a
smart
Kodak
casual.
shirt.
Is it?
Smart casual. I don't know. Is the beanie add the casual to your smart shirt?
Well, the beanie is actually to hide the fact that this is the longest I've ever been without a haircut. I think in my adult life.
No.
So the beanie is to hide the lockdown disaster that is my head at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep.
Well, I don't know why you haven't just done the old buzz cut. Just tried it out. At least in lockdown.
Last year I was doing my own haircuts, and it's just not the same. I tried to do a self fade. It's generally very good on one side, a bit less good on the other, and quite moth eaten on the back. I have to say the last couple of weeks, well, every couple of weeks, Jem will attack me with the trimmers to shave my neck.
Yeah.
Because she's just like, that's getting out of hand. And I'm like,
it's getting, yeah.
I'm like, stop wog shaming me. I can't help who I am. I can't help my wolf neck. No, I'm lucky that I'm not a very hairy guy. But when she does clean up the neck, I must say I'm a bit ashamed at how low she has to begin.
Yeah. Well, you feel brand new. I reckon that'd be a good feeling.
Yeah.
Ready to go back out into the world.
That's right.
I'm ready. My neck's shaved. I'm ready.
That's right. Now I just need to work on the rest. What have you been shooting, mate?
A bunch of different stuff lately. Actually, I shot some athletics last night, which was video, which I don't do too much video at the moment, whereas last year it was like purely video realistically. So I did some athletics, and then I've been doing a bunch more like food kind of product shoots for a bunch of different brands up here. I don't know what you have in Melbourne. There's probably a lot more family restaurants down there, or family owned restaurants, should I say.
Was it Crust?
But yeah. So I did Crust and Pizza Capers, Donut King, Brumbies.
Mate, awesome.
So yeah. So there's a bunch going on. So it's just cool to be able to, I guess, try and level up and push my creativity for a couple of those shoots, which has been really fun. And I feel like that's an environment where I could definitely see myself, if I only had to shoot that one thing, throwing food in the air or at each other is pretty fun. Yeah. How does that all come at once? Are they under the same parent company, or do they have the same agency? So that they actually are, yeah. So they have like a global kind of agency or whatever, but they're still so very segregated from each other. So it's almost like sometimes, you can't really have the same ideas for both shoots, because it'll just be too similar. If it's the same photographer pitching the same idea for a different brand, it'll look the same. So that's why. I guess also maybe why I was also introduced, at the start of this year on their roster, because maybe they just needed that variety between their normal shooters. So I was happy that I got the call up, and then obviously did something good enough to then spread the love around to the other brands that they kind of run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the beauty of that sort of relationship is once you're in, so many different doors open in different directions. So that's, sometimes I feel like the agencies get a bad rap, but the money is good, and it's I think from my experience the last 3 or 4 years as a commercial photographer, my experience is a bit different to yours, but it seems like the best work is the work where the person is not paying out of their own pockets. Their budget is someone else's money, and so they don't mind spending it.
Yeah. And the thing is, like the budget for the higher the budget doesn't mean that necessarily I get paid more money. It just means I can bring more of a team in, or it means you can have that food stylist that the lower budget kind of didn't have,
Yep.
or yeah, you can, not that I'm at the level, but hire robots to chuck shit in the air, or like all those Subway kind of commercials where it's like robots doing heaps of shit, and yeah, getting that, I guess, that next level.
So basically, is it something along the lines of you get your day rate regardless, but you can just make a way better shoot if there's a big budget?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not like I'm charging more. It's my rate will stay the same, but it just means I can have, one assistant or two assistants,
Yep.
or, you know, or we can put more money into, say, props, or, hiring an Airbnb to shoot at rather than just shooting in studio, or
Yep.
yeah. So it kind of overall, it just makes the shoot better, I feel.
Yeah.
Well, it just depends on what the brief is. But if I'm thrown a brief and it looks pretty hectic, well, then I'm going to suggest the maximum at first, and then let's work back and scale down what we don't need. But yeah, it's been exciting, man. I don't know. I've got so much to learn. Like, I feel like even in the past month, my shooting of, say, food or product has leveled up. And that's only in the space of 4 weeks or something. So I'm pretty excited to, just do more research and more study on how the good guys do it.
What's your sort of go-to for food? Do you tend to light it from the back, from one side from the back?
I guess that's traditionally how I see a lot of good photography. It is lit from there, and then just try and bounce in the front with fill.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a kind of guy. I really like to, like, if I've got 6 lights, I'm using 6 lights.
Really?
Yeah, because I just feel like I've got so much more control over the situation. Even if one of the lights is on the lowest setting it can be on, or I need to chuck some ambient in the room. Like, no one else is going to notice that except for me. It's like that minimal, I just need those shadows up by a quarter of a stop, or whatever it is. Like, I think that's why I enjoy it so much. For me, it's like, I don't need to impress the client. I need to impress myself. And I feel like I can just light it. I know a lot of guys it just depends on the shoot too. If we're shooting at our local cafe, I'll just take one light and then just a couple of boards to use as bounce.
Yep.
Because it gets the job done. But when I'm doing stuff where I'm chucking it in the air, or there's a bit more movement in the shot, I kind of want it lit, So then if we are going to comp it later, everything's lit properly. And I try to get a lot of the shots in one take rather than let's just hold stuff in the air and then shop it in later. Because my retouching ability isn't high, and whereas my lighting ability, I feel, is better than my retouching. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to light it properly. So then we just do one shot. And, a lot of the stuff I've been shooting isn't just for one product. So it's like, we got to light it, shoot it, and then move on.
Yeah.
We're not getting a whole day for one product.
Yeah. Do you ever work with a retoucher?
I actually got put onto a guy last week that I've used for the first time. And, I asked about his rate. He said this is how much it was. And I said, that's the price. Yep. I'm happy to pay it, because I've seen his collection of works and I was just, very impressed. And I guess it's hard because I actually reached out to a guy that I assisted before, by the name of Damien Bredberg, and he's a bit of a heavyweight in the industry up here in the commercial space, and I know he does a bunch of retouching and then obviously gets other dudes to retouch. But he, I think I have a good enough relationship with him that he was just able to say, here's the guy, use him, and I got in contact with that guy. Literally, he messaged me straight away and was like, yep, I'm free Monday, I can do it, this is the rate, let's do it. And I guess, he smashed it, and I was just so excited to find someone that I didn't have to trial, and in the industry that we work in, it's very time conscious, so if I'm trying to get something retouched and then we're back and forth, for 2 weeks, it's already taken too long. So I was excited. So what about you? You've had experience with a bunch of retouches?
Bits and pieces. I'm usually on the big shoots. I'm second fiddle, so I'm often assisting. Often I'll do sort of the basic retouching if there is anything. If there is anything major, we do have a good retoucher that we use. But the reason I ask is because we've had a few shoots recently where the client is actually a designer, like a really talented designer. So actually they have the Photoshop skills, they have the Illustrator and InDesign and whatever.
That's cool.
And so they can direct very well. For example, one of the products was like a healthy chocolate bar, let's say. And so we were doing stuff like we were melting all the drops of chocolate with a heat gun or whatever and shooting them separately. And the way she was able to comp them and put them all together to go on the packaging, it completely blew my mind, because it was like, on the set, it looks like such a mess. There's smears of chocolate everywhere and crumbs and whatever. But, to pass that on, I mean, first of all, to have that person on set to just say, yep, got it, that's exactly what I want, that goes a long way in itself. But secondly, the fact that it's actually that person that's going to be working with the files and knows what they're doing, I was blown away by the outcome.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Donut King and those guys. They actually have the in-house team that are able to do that. And when they can make it, they'll come to the set and not so much direct, but just overlook, and then also have some kind of opinion on how it's going to look at the end. Because my vision might be a little bit different from what they want, or vice versa. So I think it's so good to have them on set, and not. I think it's pretty lucky to be able to have that.
Yeah, cool.
So
one thing I was gonna say, one thing I wanted to pick up on that you actually mentioned before, I was going to ask, but you answered it already. And when you were talking about if you've got 6 lights, you're going to use 6 lights. I feel like I'm the opposite. I feel like the more lights, the more complicated unnecessarily. But each to their own. Yeah. But I really like that you said you're not using 6 lights to impress anyone else. You're using 6 lights because you want to push your own boundaries. You want to satisfy your own, creativity and curiosity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I feel like I feel like a lot of photographers would do that sort of thing to kind of bamboozle the client in a way, to kind of like try and justify the fee that they're charging. So they bring all this extra production, or try and make it look like it's more difficult than it is, because there are people undercharging or people charging a lot less. Maybe the product's not as good, but I feel like people that don't know what they're looking at, they sort of don't care.
Yeah. And I've seen people do it. Like, I remember seeing, I was shooting at the studio, and there was a fairly high up photographer shooting, some fashion, and it was like the garage tilted door thing was up. I was shooting in the studio, so completely different zones. And she had, some bare bulb lights like kind of up and like not even really pointing anywhere. And it was this major setup when like I could just see that she was just using natural light. It was just all the natural light from the door being up. And I was like, oh, that is a classic example of, just like the clients going, holy shit, there's 40 lights pumping around in here. How good's this look, when all the time, like, those lights weren't actually doing anything. So, I think, or same as like people rocking up, shooting with a red, even though the outcome is only going to be 1080p.
Yeah.
Or what, it is a big
it's a Facebook story.
And I feel like a lot of YouTubers actually kind of promote that as well. They're like, oh, you know how to get more money? Buy a 30 grand camera and rock up to set. Bigger clients are going to pay more money. And I'm like, well, no one's going to pay you more money if they don't know who you are. Like, I feel like there's a lot more steps before you even getting to the set to flex your big camera.
Yeah.
You know.
Not to mention, I mean, I know people personally that have put themselves deep in the hole thinking that it's going to get them the jobs or it's going to do something for them, but it just time and time again we've just proven that it doesn't. It's just like, I feel like the worst thing you can do is outlay first and then figure it out later. Like, if anything, the play should always be, what's the minimum viable equipment that you can use, and then once you reach that limitation, then you add on that thing that is going to help you go that extra mile. Or you find out that one, you need a monitor all of a sudden because you can only record 30 minutes, or you need the client to be able to see the thing as it's going on, or you need to check the crop or whatever. Like, it's expand as you go. Surely is the key, because cash flow is important, right? Like, why would you put yourself behind the 8 ball if
no point
in this sort of industry where you're often waiting weeks or months for invoices to pay?
100%. I agree. And even with all of my lighting setup, I only bought one light at a time. It was like, okay, what can I do with this one light? Okay, now I need 2 lights. Okay, we've kind of exhausted this, I need another light, and because even $1,000, it's still a big expense. And as you say, some invoices, companies do a 60-day term, or or someone just won't pay you for as long as they feel. And cash flow is important. That there's other things you need to pay for your life and expenses. So I feel like just buying one thing at a time, and that's probably the mistake that some people make. They get the whole kit, 2 cameras, all the lights, all the lenses, and then they end up only using one lens. It's like, well, I wouldn't recommend just going out and grabbing everything and then calling yourself a pro.
Yeah, I'm sure both of us fall into this trap as well, but it's like that mentality of, all I need, like, as soon as I get that thing, then I'll be able to do this, or I'll wait until I get that one thing and then I'll do this. Particularly me at the moment, with just sort of getting back into the swing of the channel and everything. Sometimes I catch myself making excuses like that, and I'm like, actually, compared to someone else that is starting their channel, I've got above and beyond everything that I need. There's really no excuse that I shouldn't just be doing it. Yeah,
I agree. That's the same reason I bought running shoes for the last 10 years of my life, and saying that, I'm going to go for a run.
Once I get those new shoes,
exactly, dude. And I bought the new shoes, guess what, I haven't never run. Until this year, when it was like, a totally different reason. It wasn't because of the new equipment, But there's a guy that I like on YouTube named Danny Gervitz, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
I think you mentioned him to me.
Yeah, so he just shoots, FX3 or his or a A7S3.
Yeah.
One body, one lens, 24-70. That's it. Smashes it. So when you see, that also helps when you see people killing it with literally bare minimum. That's when you realize that you don't need everything.
Let me sum it up for you in one sentence. Creativity is born from limitations.
Yeah, that works.
The more you think about it, the more it's true.
Yeah, true. No, creativity is 100%.
Because if you have endless options, then you can go any path, and you just never pick a path. You could go any way, and you just get this analysis paralysis. Whereas if I was to give you your 24-105 and give you your A9 or whatever, you'd just make it work, wouldn't you? No matter what the situation, you'd make it work. I really like that one. I was going to ask, are you shooting a Godox lighting kit at the moment?
Yeah, yep.
Is it?
All Godox.
I think it's actually pronounced Godox. I really struggle to say that. I've always said Godox, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Godox.
Same.
But I always say Godox.
Yeah.
What lights do you have in that kit?
So I have the 8600s. So I actually do have 6 8600s.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the time, if we're doing Broncos team shoot or whatever, I might have to set up 2 different stations, so I can kind of get away with 3 lights at each station and make it work. But yeah, I've used a bunch of different lights over the years. I've used Broncolors, in the early days, because that was like, it was the go-to. It was like the industry, like, I don't know. And I assisted a lot of older guys where they had bought these Broncolor products for, more than what a house deposit is.
30, 40 grand.
Oh no, dude, more, I reckon. Yeah, even a modifier for a Broncolor was probably like 3 grand. It was just ridiculous. So used a bunch of pro photo stuff, which I really enjoyed. Again, it's just the price point is just too high, and the first kind of lights that I purchased would have been the Elinchrom stuff, which I found were great, but they were very limited, and they just felt like they were always going to break, a kind of real cheap feeling, because they are a budget kind of entry level thing. But
I don't even think they're made anymore.
Yeah, I think they still sell like the D light kind of kit. It's like 2 lights, and it's $1,000, and it's actually really good. It's better than an eBay special.
Yeah.
Just a no brand
Yeah.
thing. And then they also had I bought a trigger for the Elinchroms that allowed me to do high speed sync.
Mm-hmm.
So just with the standard trigger, it wouldn't let you. So yeah, it allowed me to go outdoors and actually use it in the sunlight and stuff like that.
So,
but honestly, I rate the Godox. Yeah.
What do you think about the? Are you using exclusively battery, or have you got the backs with the AC adapter?
So I'm using exclusively battery, but I also purchased the backs as well.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just doing a studio shoot, so I need to just light the backdrop.
Yeah.
Then I can just plug them in because they're kind of stationary.
Yeah.
But pretty much they last they'll last 8 hours, just depending on the output.
Yeah.
But I've learned over time how to maximize them for the shoot that I'm on, and whether all I need to do is, like, instead of shooting at ISO 100, I might pump it up to 400 or 640, because you're not really going to notice the difference anyway, of grain level or any of that breakup, when you're using lights.
Yep.
So it just allows me to have the output lower, so I get just a longer usage time out of them. So, but I wouldn't get anything weaker than the 600s.
I was about to say, do you find the 600s are enough?
They are, yeah. But I just wouldn't go for the 400 or the 200. I just don't feel like the output would be enough, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the difference? Because I was looking into them recently. I think, as part of investing in the channel, I'll probably start to get a couple of those, because I've got a couple of the 8200s, which I love. And for most stuff, I just will borrow, I'm working for someone else, I will use his gear. But I think if I'm out shooting and I need something a bit beefier, I was looking at the 8600s. There's a couple of different versions of them, though. There's like the 600BM, 600B.
Yeah, so the BM is like an older model. It's kind of a little bit more squarer. But yeah, just the 600, whatever they're called, Pro. Yeah, 8600 Pros.
Mm-hmm.
I think, when I first started buying them, they were only about $1,100, and then they just inflated in price over the last couple of years to be $1,400-$1,500 per kind of one. So every kind of sale that happens, I kind of just have a quick sneak at the price, because I feel like I can always add another light to my kit, one at a time. But yeah,
that's actually one other thing that I was going to ask. this is probably only relevant to our Australian viewers, but did you, it's obviously October now, so we've just sort of passed all the tax time. Did you take advantage of the instant write-off incentives?
For say during COVID, or do you mean?
Yeah, because of the pandemic, the Australian government had, I think, any asset below 50 grand, you get the full write-off amount straight away instead of having to write it off over 3, 4, 5 years or whatever that you normally do. I have to say I didn't realise how good it was. I happened to buy a new camera kit. I spent 7 or 8 grand last year anyway, but now I actually will have to check if it's still going, but I'm kicking myself for not buying more and just reducing my taxable income even more because just, oh my God, it was so good. Like I was expecting, for a few different reasons, crypto included, I was expecting to have to pay some tax this financial year. And that was a big help to write off all that gear.
Yeah, for sure. I've purchased a bunch of different things. I don't really, my accountant keeps track of all that. So I'm like, I just buy stuff when I kind of want to. But I did purchase like a brand new vehicle because it was meant to stop in December. So it was probably a year ago that I purchased, brand new car. Which definitely helped out with tax time and stuff like that. But every time a sale's up, man, I'm always I'm there, looking at stuff because I feel like every couple of months there's something new out, and I want to know what the best is, and I want to know how. Kara's always on my case about it because I'll just do so much research about stuff that I never actually end up buying. But at least I just have the knowledge then, to who knows, in 2 years' time I might want to go, oh, now I've got reference on this item, I know how good it is or know the specs about whatever. And I feel it being not a gearhead, but like just knowing your tools, I feel like, and being across it and understanding how a better tool can maybe help you, that 5 or 10%, even if you don't have it, just knowing in the back of your mind, okay, if I do need to do something, like I kind of need this or that.
That's what I was going to say.
So helpful,
actually, because it is a slippery slope, but at the same time, if you know that if you get a brief across your lap, or if someone shows you a reference photo and it's maybe something a little bit out of the ordinary, if you understand all the new technology and in particular, the limitations of your own gear, then, that might help you land that job because you might be able to achieve something that is, that has only sort of become achievable in the last couple of years because of some new piece of kit that's just come out.
Exactly.
I mean,
well, if you look at the probe lenses, for example.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which like Daniel Schiffer used and stuff like that. No one could really replicate that. But now you can, it's like $2,600 for a probe lens, and if you were doing that kind of stuff, you could use it all the time. Or there's only a handful of rental places up in Queensland, but I don't know about Melbourne. But if it's rental for the days, $500 or less, I'm sure a client's gonna approve it and say, yeah, well, that's the look we want. Like, at least then, you've done the research on the gear and you haven't had to buy it, but you still are able to use it. So.
I definitely think it seems to have moved a lot faster in the last few years in the video sort of space than it has in photo.
I agree.
It's funny looking back on the last time that I was doing YouTube, which was in 2017, 2018, looking back at how far technology has come and cameras and everything, and like what you could get away with using then and what people use now, it's complete chalk and cheese. Even little things like video lighting, I feel like has come a long, long way in the last few years. Like 3 or 4 years ago, no one was using the aperture lights. Like to have a S-type, like a Bowen's mount
Yeah.
light that you could use all your photography modifiers, that is a complete game changer, first of all.
Yeah. It is, isn't it?
Secondly, just, all stuff like this, like that never existed before. Like,
No.
everyone was using LED panels. It's like you either, first of all, very hard to put a modifier on them. Secondly, you plug it into a wall, or you get a fucking huge V-Lock battery for it, which costs as much as the light costs.
Yeah.
So that space has definitely come a long way, and I think I would have to agree with you that it's well worth keeping up with that stuff.
Yeah, but I do agree that the video stuff it's gone up, and I don't feel like I've been engaged by anything really photo wise. Maybe it's like the resolution of cameras is probably the biggest thing for photo. Whereas like if it's not resolution, what are you really doing that's different besides a 0.95 lens, that you can't focus anyway.
I'm gonna pull you up there a little bit. I'm gonna pull you up there a little bit and say that your situation is pretty unique in that you have access to virtually any of the bodies and lenses that you want to use or try out. So perhaps in a way that makes you a little bit, bored with the technology that's available, because you can get your hands on it pretty easily.
Yeah, that's true. You called me out. You got me. Well, it is true, because I recently just borrowed the A7 III because I needed an extra body, because Cara and I were shooting a wedding and we just needed more bodies. And it was just a totally different experience, from shooting to like from the A9 II or the A7R4.
Yeah.
It just felt like the A7 III was archaic.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't perform as quick as I needed it to, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. So whereas if I hadn't had the A9 or anything in my hands, like I wouldn't know any better. So yeah. I think I'm spoiled, yeah.
Spoiled, you're very lucky, yeah. That's awesome. One of the things that was on my list was if you could choose, I suppose, working as a commercial photographer for, I don't know how many years now have you been, firing the way that you have now. How long have you been doing this?
6 years, yeah.
6 years. So I've had some thoughts recently, and just a few things that have happened in our life have just sort of made me take stock and think about what I want to do, like what my future looks like beyond just a week or a month or a year, like long term, like what do I want to be doing? And I think being in the commercial photography realm, I've kind of realized that not, at a certain degree, at a certain point, a commercial photographer is someone who can kind of do anything, and you do anything because that's how you make money, by not always adapting, but they're not always jobs that light you up. They're not always jobs that you're passionate about, or products that you care about, or that sort of thing. But I was thinking, if you could choose exactly what you wanted to shoot, if money was no object, if you could get money,
if you could just be compensated, like
what you think you deserve, what would you be shooting?
It's really hard, because a lot of the stuff I shoot is like I just enjoy it so much. And I don't think money would be the issue. I think it would be probably more based around my lifestyle, with Cara, because if I didn't have her, I probably wouldn't be able to achieve, a lot of the stuff that I have anyway. But also, I'd probably go back to more like band days, where I'd be happy to tour around the world, following the PGA Tour, and just week in, week out, on a plane to the next place, like, and just covering all the golf, really. Like, I think that's something, golf is something that I'm passionate about, and I guess it's like, second best to being a pro, I think would be And I just love that. I really enjoy the lifestyle of always on the move. I don't really like sitting down too still. So I think that if that was my job each and every week, it would be it would be awesome. But I just don't think that would ever be a reality because eventually having a family and having a house and and not that they're adult things, but I think there's something that as you get older, I think they're the things that you want in your life, and you kind of stop to think like the money isn't everything, and also like maybe your goals or dreams kind of need to be reassessed, which is cool because you can make new goals and new dreams and probably share those, I guess, more than I feel like it's very selfish to feel like, oh, this is my dream, this is my goal, and if you have someone that you care about, like for them to kind of just you know tag along or whatever, I feel like it's for me it's more of a team thing now. I can't remember what the question was. I started talking shit. But
no, you were speaking directly to my soul then.
Yeah.
you're
but yeah, yeah. So I don't know. If it was selfish, yep, 100%. Just follow Tiger Woods around every week. That would be great. But now thinking about the team dream, I think it would be more of this product kind of stuff. I've really enjoyed shooting food and then trying to recreate it. Even though it's the same shot, trying to do that. And I think you can be a bit more meticulous. Also, dealing with still products and not not a model or an athlete or whatever. I feel like you've just probably got a bit more time to work with, and you don't have someone who hasn't had a coffee in the morning, or someone who you kind of just you're not relying on anyone else, I feel. Whereas like if I'm going to shoot the golf or whatever and someone's having a bad round, he's not going to smile once throughout that whole day, and the shot you need is him celebrating the win, and he's got the loss. So it's not harder. I think it's tricky. But what about you? What do you think? What are you feeling that you would want to shoot forever?
Well, I have been thinking about this a little bit, and so many of the things that you said just like were almost like you pulled them out of my own subconscious. Particularly you said about if you didn't have the situation that you have with Kara, and someone that you live with and someone that you depend on and that depends on you. I think my life would look different as well. I don't regret any of that for a moment. Don't take that the wrong way. In many ways, I think the reason that I'm having this sort of conversation with myself lately is because talking about goals, certain little milestones, I feel like I've ticked off a lot of them along the way, and those sort of smaller things have kept me busy, but they've stopped me from focusing too much on the big picture. For us, it was we wanted to get the house, and then after that we wanted to get married, and then after that the family and whatever else. And now that those sort of things have been ticked off, the sort of traditional goals or milestones, whatever you'd call them, now I'm sort of wondering what's next. And you mentioned the next best thing to being pro would to be able to follow the tour and shoot the tour. I mean, again, this is another reason that I think you're a bit spoiled, because you got to live the rockstar life. You got to do your band and be in a touring act and whatever. And I have this opinion that pretty much every music photographer that I know is a failed musician themselves. I know when I was in
every single one of them.
When let's say from year 8 to a few years out of school, that was my dream, to be a rock star. And things happen, and you have to be realistic, and you can either double down or you can pivot. And I decided to pivot, and that's sort of what drew me into photography. And yes, maybe I'm not a music photographer anymore, but that was I'm glad that I got to at least test out that life. I got to do a little bit of touring and, you know, pretend like I was a rock star for a little while. And I'm really glad I got to do that. But as for the next chapter, I suppose the reason that I've been so passionate about jumping back into this stuff with the videos and the channel and everything is because I really see this as a vessel. I feel like YouTube is one of the few platforms that the more work you put in, the more result you get. I genuinely think YouTube is one of the hardest channels to grow because I feel like a lot of the other platforms, there are certain ways to cheat, right? You can get lucky, or you can know the right people, or your timing is good, or, you know, there are other ways to grow on other platforms. But I feel like YouTube is just kind of grind. But in a way, that's a good thing because the more you put in, the more you get out. So I think what I've been thinking of is if I can use the channel to shoot whatever I want and then make money in a roundabout way by making content out of shooting the things that I really want to shoot, I think that would be my ultimate dream. You know, for example, there's a bunch of small local businesses that I really love in our local area. And, you know, those are not, as I'm sure you know, these are not the sort of jobs that pay big money, but I would really get a kick out of making something fantastic for them. And, you know, it's a product or a person or a business that I believe in. So, you know, if I could go and shoot something for them, make a cool video that other people would be entertained by and, you know, have ad revenue come in or a sponsorship on that, I can't think of anything better.
And I think the great thing about that is that it's on your terms, you know, which I feel will drive you more and also excite you more, you know, because you could do a video or, you know, a vlog or whatever on one of the biggest brands you've ever shot, but it just might not have the same energy as to someone, you know, you believe in or you really enjoy their muffins or whatever it is, you know. And also I feel like it's super nice of you to give back to those people as well, because, you know, everyone starts somewhere, and it's just kind of nice to see that that, I don't know, you have that ability to give something to them, even though, like, you know, none of these places will ask that, or, you know, I feel like it's good for you to just approach them and create something cool, and for them to be a part of the journey as well, you know.
That's a really good place to end. I think we've I had a list of things to talk about. We didn't cover any of them, but I really enjoyed the conversation. We went down some rabbit holes, but it was that came at a good time for me. So thank you for the chat, mate.
Nah, it's good. I appreciate it, and until next time.
Yeah. Just quickly, I want to make sure I do this every episode. Have you got a tool of the week for this week?
The tool of the week. So it's not really so much of a tool, but it's more of a my inability to walk just barefoot hurts. So my feet are really flat, and on shoot days like today, I was standing up all day, and my feet kill me. And in a lot of studios, you can't wear shoes or anything because, you know, it marks the white.
Yeah.
But I've got away with just wearing white shoes now. But I just grab those little insole things, you know, that 50-year-old men wear.
Yeah.
And saves my life, honestly. Like, you wouldn't believe the difference it makes. They're like $30. Chuck them in your shoes.
Is there any brand in particular we're talking about?
No, pretty much. I went to the foot doctor guy, and he said, they're pretty much all the same thing, but it actually helps you with your, like, posture and stuff as well. And it's weird. All it does is, like, literally chucks a bit of a cushiony arch in my shoe, but that way I can stand all day.
That is an excellent return on investment.
Yeah, if you are a person, whether a photographer or whatever your normal job is, if you're standing all day, $30 save your life. That's
a really good one. I actually used to work in a shoe shop while I was at uni, and since those days I've always worn Doc Martens. And I have to say, you know, the $15 insoles that I put in both of those, I've basically for the last 6 or 7 years just alternated between a black and a brown pair. And I don't know if I could have done it all this time if I didn't have even just the cheap insoles in there. So that's a good call. I like that.
Yeah.
My tool of the week is, I recently, just for my desk, I got this, I don't know what exactly you call it. It's a tripod with like a flat base. So it's basically like 3 legs that kind of fold up sideways, kind of like how C-stand legs work, but they fold out, and then it's just got like a adapter for a spigot, and you put a pole in it so you can get your light stand really low, or in this case I've just got my tripod head on it, and
cool.
I can stick it on my desk and it doesn't take up all this room. That's my tool of the week.
How high is it? 10 centimeters?
I'll pop up a video on the screen. So it basically, you could get your flash, 5 centimeters off the ground if you wanted to, but I've just got a little pole in there that can extend, it probably goes a meter. But yeah, there are quite a few. I'm sure you know this if you shoot a lot of product. There are quite a few scenarios where you need your light to be lower than what a light stand will go. So to have something just off the floor is really, really handy. Anyway, that was only like $120 or something, and that has paid off disproportionately to how much it costs.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I've just done the shitty rig thing, and I've used the yoga foam bricks that people use.
Yeah.
I've used them in replace of a stand.
Oh well, if that works, it works.
Yeah, I know it's not very reliable or stable, but it does work.
Yeah. Well, I'll pop a link to both of these tools of the week in the description.
Yeah.
And for anyone that wants to check them out, you can do so. Kurt, thank you, mate. I really appreciate it. Thanks, you for watching. If you have stuck around this far to the video, can you please leave a clover emoji in the comments to confuse everyone else that didn't make it this far. And if you did make it this far, if you could please gently caress the like button, that would mean a lot to myself and Kurt here. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
See ya.